from KTTC. This is News Center at 10.
Hello, Minnesota. Great state, thank you. And I'm thrilled to be back in the heartland with thousands of hardworking and truly great American patriots. You know that.
For thousands of people in southern Minnesota, it is the biggest political event of the year. Thank you for joining us. President Trump rallied in Rochester tonight at Mayo Civic Center, one stop in a tour across the country in the final push ahead of the 2018 midterm elections.
Yeah, the stakes are pretty high here. Republicans must capture the first congressional seat in southern Minnesota as the majority in the U.S. House is in balance. Now, minutes before the rally, I had a unique one-on-one with the president about the high-stakes race, plus a few other important things to discuss that pertain specifically to southern Minnesota. This is something you're only going to see on KTTC. Here are a few highlights of this conversation. Your visit to the 1st Congressional District, how important is this visit?
Well, it's very important, and as you know, we have some great congressmen running between Hagedorn, all of them. They're just great. We have 4 of them that I've been with today. And I'll tell you what, a star is going to be Karen Hosley.
So many farmers in southern Minnesota support you. A lot of us are wondering what's going to happen to these crops. Where will they go with the tariffs?
Well,
what do you
it's
say?
now going to be great. And, you know, the tariffs are disappearing because what we did with Mexico has been incredible, in Canada, because Canada had massive tariffs and massive barriers. And we have the New Deal, as you know. It's the new NAFTA. I don't even like to use the name NAFTA because I thought it was a terrible deal. Farmers have really been hurt. They've really been taken advantage of. And no administration really came to their aid, but I've come to their aid.
Healthcare. We have Mayo Clinic in our backyard, the #1 hospital.
Right.
How do you maintain that level of healthcare, the innovations, both today and for the future? How do we keep that going?
Well, Mayo Clinic, #1, is one of the great hospitals of the world, so you're lucky to have it. But we're giving, as you know, we've been very generous. We've increased our budget in terms of hospitals, in terms of care. What we're doing for the vets is something that we're very proud of. We're giving them choice, and they could actually go into the Mayo Clinic in some instances, and they can use the Mayo Clinic instead of waiting in line for 3 weeks. So we have choice. We passed a lot of different things for the vets and for hospitalization and all. As you know, we've increased the budget very substantially, and places like Mayo Clinic, those are the places we have to take care of and cherish. So they're very happy with what we're doing.
So my photographer Spencer and I were the only news crew given the security clearance to chat with the president tonight. He did pull me aside after the interview on the way out to the rally and asked how well Jim Hagedorn and Karen Hosley are doing in the race, again calling Karen a rising star. I responded with the information I knew and then said we'll see November 6th. It was interesting too, after the interview, security is so tight, of course.
Absolutely.
And they said, okay, you guys got to stay here. And the president pointed to me and to Spencer and said, hey guys, come on, let's go have some fun. And so we started to walk down the tunnel with him to this back rally, the overflow rally. And so it was really interesting to kind of see the behind the scenes
when you
thing.
woke
And
up
that's
this
when
morning,
he pulled
you
me
didn't
aside.
think that the president would say, follow me today?
No, or have a discussion about Karen Hosley and Jim Hagedorn in the hallway after this interview.
What
so
a day.
It was quite the adventure. Well, while thousands gathered at Mayo Clinic, or Mayo Civic Center rather, to see and hear the president, the Minnesota DFL hit the streets of Rochester in a massive door-knocking campaign.
The DFL mobilized 140 candidates and volunteers this afternoon and evening to knock on doors of voters to try to spread their message. They say DFL candidates are the best choices for middle-class Minnesota families, and they are calling this a day of action. Party leaders say their message is a positive one about working toward, quote, quality, affordable health care, great schools for our kids, and an economy that works for all Minnesotans. 1st Congressional District DFL candidate Dan Feehan was leading the Rochester door-knocking campaign. Tomorrow, the Feehan campaign trail leads to Cortland, where he's set to join DFL gubernatorial candidate Tim Walz in meetings with the Minnesota Corn Growers Association and the Minnesota Pork Producers Association. Then wrapping up the day with a health care roundtable in New Ulm.
And by the way, next Tuesday we have a live, or actually it's going to be taped to live debate rather, with Feehan and Hagedorn. It's 1 hour. It'll be airing next Thursday. It's at Kellogg Middle School, so if you want to come down and hear from these candidates, you are welcome to do that.
This race is far from over.
Yeah, let's head outdoors now and take a check of that weather. It's raining out there, Matt.
Yeah, raining just a bit out here, and kind of a wet, dreary, cool evening, but a course, a lot of folks outside this evening, out and about. Be aware, we are seeing light rain showers here across the region. Not much is expected for thunderstorms, but I wouldn't be surprised if you hear a rumble of thunder here or there for tonight. No severe weather is expected, but would you rather have the rain or would you rather have the snow tonight? And it is snowing up north right now. In fact, perhaps some accumulating snowfall for the northern half of Minnesota. No snow is expected here across southeast Minnesota. Part of the reason for that, temperature is just too warm for it, sitting in the 40s right now. And I don't think we'll be falling too much further for tonight. Not a lot of dry air making it back into the system, so temperatures are not going to really fall here much for the overnight hours. Live look from our Lewis Auto Sky Cam towards downtown. Well, quiet out there as far as any significant weather for tonight, but of course, light rain showers continue here for the rest of tonight through the early parts of tomorrow morning. Our high today was 50 degrees, a low of 33. That 50 seemed like a struggle at times, and 1/100th of an inch of rainfall so far at the airport. Latest look at your forecast, including this cool streak of weather. Will it continue into this weekend? Details on that forecast coming up here in just a bit.
Thanks, Matt. We had reporters stationed at the airport, inside the Mayo Civic Center, and outside the arena. But News Center's Shannon Russo had the opportunity to travel with President Trump as part of the White House press pool. That meant a lot of running, particularly to and from the presidential motorcade, as she tried keeping up with the president during his visit.
President Trump was in Rochester less than 3 hours. And what a whirlwind trip it has been for myself and my photographer, Spencer Ellingson. The two of us got a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to be in the White House press pool. And here's a look at some of it. Air Force One has just landed. The president is moments away from stepping off the plane, and then he is going to go directly to the Mayo Civic Center, where he is expected to deliver an address at 6:30 this evening. President Trump has just landed here at Rochester International Airport. You can see him right now greeting Senator Jeremy Miller of Winona, and he just got done speaking with Senator Dave Senstrom from Rochester and current Speaker of the Minnesota House, Kurt Daup.
America great again. Thank you, Minnesota. Thank you. Thank you.
And the president just wrapped up his rally, so now the White House press pool is heading back to the airport. We're being told right now to run to those vans. The president is on his way back to Washington, D.C. You can see reporters and crew who are flying with the president boarding the plane right now. They should be landing in about 2.5 hours, but this quick whirlwind trip was definitely one Rochester will remember for several years to come, but it's making some question, will the president be back in 2020 when he is up for re-election? For now, reporting at Rochester International Airport, Shannon Russo, KTTC News Center.
Shannon, thank you. And it was a very big day for so many in Rochester. We saw the president arrive, and now we saw the president depart. News Center's Barrett Leone was at Rochester's International Airport today and witnessed it all. Barrett.
President Donald Trump landed here at Rochester International Airport at about 5:15. Now, just as quick as we said hello to the president, now we're saying goodbye. Now, if you look behind me, you can see the lit up tail of Air Force One on the tarmac. After the president exited the plane before headed downtown, he spent a few minutes with top Republicans from our area. He was greeted by State Senator Jeremy Miller of Winona, State Senator Dave Senstrom of Rochester, as well as current Minnesota Speaker of the House, Kurt Daup. Even some representatives from northern Minnesota were at the airport eager for the president's arrival. You may have noticed that the president arrived in a smaller plane than we are used to seeing. Still Air Force One, as is any plane that the president rides in. However, today the 747 is occupied with the First Lady on her trip to Africa. So today Mr. Trump is traveling in a 757. Now, as the plane exits, it's almost as if you can hear an audible sigh of relief from local public safety officials, as President Trump's presence in Rochester was a smooth one. From Rochester, Barrett Leone, KTTC News Center.
Barrett, thank you. And our coverage of his visit isn't done yet. We're going to have more on what happened today after the break.
Reaction from an area history expert about what we saw tonight and what comes next.
This is KTTC News Center at 10 with Tom Overley, Caitlin Alexander, Chief Meteorologist Matt Benz, and Sports with Pat Lund.
The
President's visit to Rochester obviously serves as an effort to mobilize the GOP's base ahead of the midterm election.
RCTC history instructor Chad Israelson joined KTTC in the studio for our special coverage tonight. He provided some context about the significance of the vote in November.
Historically speaking, what happens is the supporters of the party that's in the White House, in this case the Republicans, historically speaking, whether it's Democratic or Republican, it doesn't matter, but you know, they sort of, well, we got our person in and you know, everything's fine, we can take this one off. We often see a big drop off for the party in power.
Israelson says the president's speech was what a lot of folks expected. He thinks this presidential visit may encourage both parties now to head to the polls in November.
I think this is something that is certainly going to energize the base, and I think it is also something that is certainly going to energize people that are anti-Trump.
Still ahead tonight, the crowds in downtown Rochester for the president's visit.
We'll hear from those who were happy to see the president and those who were not.
And it's raining out there this evening, but snowing up north. Will we see any snow anytime soon? Stick around for your latest forecast after the break.
Welcome back. Mayo Civic Center was packed to capacity for the rally earlier today.
It certainly was, but before the president arrived, I had some time to sit and talk to some of the folks who attended the rally today. I saw the president's supporters of literally all ages and all across the country. I spoke to one young man whose family even came from Lithuania. I asked supporters what they were excited about before the president's speech and what they love about President Trump. Their answers were very passionate.
Yeah, open mind and pretty much just be supportive for everybody with their decision.
My family came from Lithuania, you know, a branch off of the USSR, and the Soviet Union, you know, they promoted communism, and there's a reason my family left.
He's, you know, bringing people together that wouldn't necessarily come together.
I love Donald Trump. I've loved him even way before Apprentice and everything. He loves God. He loves America. He's humble. I just love him.
And with any high-profile political visit comes opposition, especially when the visitor is as polarizing as President Trump.
That opposition meant protesters in downtown Rochester today. News Center's Linda Ha followed groups as they demonstrated against the president's visit. Linda.
Tom, Caitlin, the anti-Trump rallies spanned through the downtown area throughout the day, and many people took to the streets to make their presence known and their voices heard.
Hundreds took to the streets, signs in hand.
You know, if there's no democracy where you have freedom of speech, and that will go away unless we start using our speech right now.
Ahead of the president's speech, several hundred people marched through downtown for a greater than fear anti-Trump rally. Many of them first-time voters.
So I think we have to take advantage of the community and society that we live in and really do our best to make a change.
Thunderous chants throughout the day. Outside the Mayo Civic Center, another group of protesters spoke out as they faced layoffs by top federal contractors.
We're sitting on our hands because our jobs are being outsourced to other places around the world.
Others talking separation of families and Judge Brett Kavanaugh's alleged sexual assault.
These are not things that America should be known for. You know, we don't need to be made great again. We were already great.
Several protesters were hauled out by police officers as Trump spoke, and officials say one person was arrested for a threat to the president. Live in the studio, Linda Ha, KTTC News Center.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
So we had the protesters and the many people waiting in line to see the president speak. Today it was a chilly day to do that, though, and it got some rain as well.
Rain, and I feel like the weather, while should be the less polarizing thing tonight, we're actually talking about rain versus snow tonight. And I know I know a lot of folks have been asking, when are we going to see the snow here? Answer is not yet here across southern Minnesota or northern Iowa, but a beautiful sunset, at least what was left of it here. This is what it looked like north of Mabel. Julie Swenson sending in this picture. You can see those ripples in the clouds there. And then the fall color showing off. Here's what it looked like in Rochester. The amber maples looking pretty good. Leo Evans capturing this picture here today, saying those amber maples at peak, and certainly seeing a lot of fall color here across the region. Minnesota DNR fall color report up north. That's where the peak fall color is occurring right now. But you know what? We're seeing fall color across all of Minnesota right now. 50 to 75% of peak color across north central Minnesota, but also seeing it down our direction as well. And then the rest of our area in that 25 to 50% of peak fall color. And I think that describes Rochester pretty well. While we are seeing some fall color, not to that peak just yet, but this cold weather certainly helping things along. Rain showers falling across the region right now. Very light rain generally along and north of I-90 right now, but to the north it is snowing. Yes, snow falling, and it could be accumulating snowfall here for tonight. First started up in eastern North Dakota, now has shifted into Minnesota, and it is cold enough up north for snow. In fact, 31 degrees in Grand Forks right now, 33 in Bemidji. Certainly cold enough, and that's where that snow line will be, is across northern Minnesota for tonight. Just too warm down south, and I think a lot of folks may be breathing a sigh of relief at that. Futurecast carrying us through the overnight hours. Rain showers continue. Futurecast not picking up on that all that well right now, but I think it does have a good idea of where the snow will be here for the rest of tonight into tomorrow morning. Could see a couple of rain showers our direction for tomorrow morning. Then a break through the midday. Rain showers continue up north. Then we'll have to keep an eye out for some showers or thunderstorms into tomorrow evening. Now, most computer models have shifted that thunderstorm threat mainly to our southeast heading into tomorrow night. I still think we could see some rain showers here across southeast Minnesota and northeastern Iowa heading into tomorrow late afternoon and evening, but rainfall amounts probably pretty light. Snow up north here for tonight. Warm ground conditions. Could see a couple inches of slushy snow for the northern half of Minnesota. Unfortunately, going right from that peak fall color right into winter, probably by tomorrow morning for some folks up to the north. Mostly cloudy for tonight. Temperatures falling into the lower 40s tomorrow. A little bit warmer than today. We're peaking out in the mid-50s. Again, chance for showers early and late in the day. After that, kind of a quiet weekend until Sunday afternoon. That's when we'll see that chance for rain showers returning to the area. And then the threat for heavy rain Monday, Tuesday, and potentially Wednesday. Certainly something to keep an eye on along with that rain. Temperatures warm up as well. Highs returning to the 60s.
People will need jackets tomorrow for the football games.
Yeah, that's right. And this is kind of a typical Minnesota fall. It's like temperamental shorts one day, winter coat the next day, then back to maybe shorts by early next week.
Tis Minnesota.
Yes.
That's right.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, still ahead tonight, all 4 Rochester schools will play in town tomorrow night. Pat has a look ahead to week 6 of high school football.
But first, it was one lengthy line. We're checking in with people who waited for hours and hours and hours for the president's visit.
Despite whatever political leanings you have, it's undeniable President Trump draws a crowd wherever he goes.
Requests for tickets began pouring in as soon as Republican officials announced his planned visit. Many of those enthusiastic supporters lined up early yesterday morning and endured the near-freezing temps overnight to ensure a great spot inside the arena to watch tonight's rally. Emotions were high and supporters had several opinions about everything going on in politics.
He's our president. He's a person that speaks to the people. He's not a career politician. He knows how to make money, how to make deals. He just made a deal with Canada and Mexico. But he has no policies. He just got our remains back from Korea, hostages back from Korea.
Supporters attending tonight weren't just from Rochester, obviously. We saw visitors from Mankato, Iowa, Alabama, Texas even, so all over the place.
From all over the place.
Rochester will be abuzz with high school football tomorrow night. Pat has a preview next in sports.
And the Minnesota Wild opened the hockey season tonight on the road in Denver. An update on that game is straight ahead.
It's only October 4th, but it is hockey season. It started tonight for the Minnesota Wild. On the road, the Wild in Colorado to face the Avs. And the game started at about 8:20, so it's still going on. Just over 6 minutes into the season, and a good sight. Zach Parise scores the first goal of the year. Parise on the doorstep puts the puck away for the 1-0 lead, and it was 1-1 after one. Midway through the second, Colorado takes the lead. Nathan McKinnon, the perfect pass. Devin Dubnyk didn't have a chance on the bang-bang play. 2-1 Avs, and that's where we stand in the third period. To Milwaukee for game 1 of the NLDS between the Brew Crew and the Colorado Rockies from Miller Park. Third inning, Crew breaks a scoreless tie, none other than Christian Yelich with a 2-run bomb to center field for a 2-0 lead. The Rocks tied the game at 2 in the 9th, but Mike Moustakis came to the rescue in the 10th inning, delivering the walk-off winner for the Brewers in the 3-2 10-inning victory in the best-of-5 series. Game 2 is tomorrow. Growing up in Rochester, there was just one football field in which John Marshall, Mayo, Lourdes, and RCTC, or RCC back then, shared, and that was JM Stadium. Sometimes 3 games in 2 days. High school game on Friday night, usually JM or Mayo. Lourdes would play Saturday afternoon, and the Yellow Jackets played Saturday night. Doesn't happen very often, but tomorrow night, for week 6, all 4 football stadiums in town will be in use. It all starts up at the Century Panthers, where the 3-2 Panthers play host to the top-ranked team in Class 5A, the Owatonna Huskies. Century had a 3-game win streak snapped last week in Winona, losing to the Class 4A second-ranked Winhawks 44-28. The Panthers are 2-0 at home this year, beating Red Wing 55-6 and Mayo 20-17. Owatonna is a perfect 5-0, and they have one of the best players in the state. Here he comes, the University of Minnesota-bound Jason Williamson. The 4-1 Northfield Raiders will be over at Mayo to face the 3-2 Spartans. Mayo's coming off a 34-0 win versus Faribault. Their 2 losses have come to Owatonna and Century. The Raiders have won 4 straight games since an opening week loss to Mankato East. They beat Austin last week 36-20. Meanwhile, the John Marshall Rockets are riding some momentum after taking care of Red Wing on the road last week, 72-0 for their first win of the year. New Prague comes to Rochester with a 1-4 mark as well. The Trojans have lost 4 straight since the opening week when they beat Red Wing. The Rockets will be at Century next week. Then they wrap up the regular season hosting Mayo. The Class 3A second-ranked Lourdes Eagles will face their biggest test of the season when they host the Casson-Mantorville Comets. The Comets are coming off an impressive 42-14 win over 6th-ranked Stewartville. KM has won 3 of their last 4, and through the first 5 weeks, the Eagles' defense has given up just 34 total points, winning last week 28-7 over Byron. All kickoffs are at 7 o'clock. And a couple of key matchups tomorrow night. Look at the 9-man game in Spring Grove. The top-ranked Lions host 5th-ranked Houston. And in Goodhue, the 8th-ranked Wildcats look to bounce back from their loss to Blooming Prairie against 5th-ranked Rushford Peterson. Yes, it was a little wet at Mayo Stadium tonight as the Spartans hosted Albert Lee in boys soccer. Mayo controlled the pace in the first half. Jabril Muse working his way around the Tigers looking for that opening, and he'll cash in with the great kick to put the Spartans on top 1-0. Mayo strikes again. Gabe Gauthier, the great pass to Muse, who's on the doorstep for the 2-0 lead. Muse with 3 goals tonight, and with the victory, the Spartans are Big 9 Conference co-champions with Austin. 6-0 is the final score. LARP's Luke O'Hare, Stewartville's Kaylee Malone won the huge LARP cross-country meet tonight, and Grand Meadows' Caitlin Hilton had 19 kills. Wow. And will be on Sports Extra tomorrow night.
Impressive. All right. Thank you, Pat. So we'll be back in a moment. Kids do the darndest things, especially this next kid who shredded more than $1,000 in cash.
Ben Belknap is a huge Utah Utes football fan. When his parents bought him season tickets, he and his wife Jackie decided to pay them back. So they saved up enough cash and put it in an envelope to give to them in person. This past weekend, though, the envelope disappeared. After careful and tearful consideration, Jackie realized her son Leo had shredded the cash. Luckily, the Treasury Department could soon restore some or all of the money.
What a bummer, right? Isn't it against the law to do that
Hard
stuff
to see
to cash as well?
What a day.
See you tomorrow.